Hey, it's Rick here, and I've got the brand new Speck PixelSkin HD wrap for the 3rd generation iPad. This is my video retake. I say retake because I had filmed a video review on this case before. Unfortunately, I demonstrated one of the stand modes incorrectly. In all fairness to Speck, I wanted to pull that video down and replace it with this one so the correct information was there for all of you. If you've seen this video review in its prior form, the final verdict on this case has not changed, and you'll see that in just a few short moments here. But again, I wanted to make sure that I called out the correct stand alignment on this case. So without further ado, let's take a look at the Speck PixelSkin HD wrap. So this is the Speck PixelSkin HD wrap for the 3rd generation iPad, and I picked mine up at my local Target for about $39.99. At that time they had it in 4 different colors: blue, black, purple, and pink. And I'll mention the purple and pink are more pastel, so they're a lighter shade of purple and pink. It will run you $49.99 if you buy this from Speck's website. So if you are interested in purchasing this case, I would advise you to look at Target first. You'll save $10, or to do your shopping wisely. It is going to ship in the box that you see right here. Kind of resembles an iPad box in certain regard. And I will show you that blue color on the iPad at the tail end of this video. This case is made out of a TPU material, or a thermoplastic, so it's going to retain its shape over time. It won't stretch out like silicone will. And it's also going to provide a great level of scratch protection and a moderate level of drop protection. You can see the front cover is a mixture of both a shiny background material along with those matte kind of squares, or what Speck calls pixels. That is both to give you additional grip when you're holding this case, and also an interesting design to the case. It kind of catches the light, as you can see. There is some Speck branding there on the back side of this case. And then as far as everything lining up, here is what your dock connector looks like. The speaker is completely exposed, as you can see, so no issues with that. Right here is your clasp to keep this case closed. And this clasp is a hard plastic clasp, and I've got some issues with it on how it requires some additional force to open and close, and I'll demonstrate that in a moment here. You can see your cutouts for your camera as well as your rocker switch, and then you've got your volume rocker button as well as the sleep awake button that are covered up. Those buttons will work just fine. However, it does take away a little bit of the clicky tactile feel when you use them, so you're not going to hear the physical clicking of the buttons when you press it. Up along the top, your microphone cutout is aligned perfectly, as is your headphone jack. Now let's flip it around. I'm going to open this case up. First thing I want you to do is to listen to the kind of creaking noise that we get when we open this up. So you may have heard that. And the second thing you noticed is it did not engage my sleep awake. And I will mention that the sleep awake does not always engage on this case. I've had varying degrees of luck. I believe that the magnet is placed right here, so you kind of have to have that just right. And I'll try it again to see if I can get it to work this time, and I sure can. So you can see that I get varying degrees of success, and you heard it go to sleep that time potentially, and that is a potential issue. The other thing I want to call out about this case is that, take a look in here, you can see that it didn't put it to sleep. So sometimes, again, it is not going to awaken your device, and sometimes it's not going to put it to sleep. So you better kind of look under there, because if not, you could be potentially draining your iPad battery. So that is an issue for me. Let's go ahead and take a look at the stand modes of this case, because that is another kind of a sore point for me. The first thing I want to demonstrate is the typing angle for you. And this rolls up just like a smart cover. Now, I will say you kind of have to hold it in place, because this is a little resistant, and if you don't, it's going to flop back. This is your typing angle here, and in a tabletop environment, it works relatively well. However, I will mention, if you put this on your lap, if you're in bed, this becomes very unstable, and you can kind of see how just touching it, it falls apart on you. Sometimes I've experienced that even when I went to fold this case up and just put it down just the right way, it will start to fall apart on me. So it is very touchy in that regard. When you get it in its place on a tabletop, it's stable, but again, just the slightest movements can make it fall apart on you. Let me show you the viewing angle of this case. what you're going to do is fold it forward. And before I do that, I want to show you right here, there is a notch that goes across about that far. It is going to lock into place on this latch here. And when you do that, that is where you end up with your stand. This stand works relatively well, again, in a in a tabletop environment, but it's not going to work so well in a laptop environment. Again, it becomes very unstable. The other thing I want to call out about this is that, let me lift this up and show you what happens. When you put it in that mode, you can see it is tugging down on the case itself. And the problem with that is you always have to come back to the case and reseat it, because if you don't, your case is not properly aligned and it could create some issues with debris, dirt, dust, whatever getting back in there. So again, you're going to fold this forward to put it in its stand mode, but as I've demonstrated, it is kind of, again, a struggle to deal with this stand, and it starts to pull it away, as you can see right there, kind of get that bezel part of the iPad, and then you're forced to go back and kind of snap it in place once again. So here is the blue version of the Speck PixelSkin HD wrap, just for color kind of comparison. And this is on a black iPad 3rd generation. Again, everything and how that lines up on this case. And if we open it up, you can see what that looks like in comparison. So the Speck PixelSkin HD wrap is unfortunately going to get a 1.5 out of 5 from me. The positives, well, it is going to provide a great level of scratch protection and potentially a moderate level of drop protection. But beyond that, we start to look at how the negatives outweigh the positives on this case. First off, the stands. The stands, while they work just okay in a tabletop environment, they are very touchy, and it always feels like a constant struggle to use them. Putting it in the typing angle, if you nudge it just the right way, it is going to fall apart on you. This is especially true if you're in a laptop environment where you're setting it on your lap or on a pillow or something like that. It just is not going to work all that well. And your other stand of the viewing or the movie angle is also an issue. It tugs at the case itself to the point that when you're done, you have to snap the case back into place. And I've demoed that in this video here. The sleep awake feature is also an issue. It's very inconsistent. I've been able to have times where it's worked and other times where it hasn't. And unfortunately, if it does not put your device to sleep and you don't recognize that, it's going to cause premature battery drain on your iPad. So that is definitely an issue. And then finally, the price. At the $39 price at Target, $49 online, it's questionable if that's a good value. Personally, if the features of this case worked consistently and as advertised, then I think that that price could be okay. But in its current state, I can't recommend it. So that's going to do it. The Speck PixelSkin HD wrap gets a disappointing 1.5 out of 5. If you guys have questions, comments, or feedback, please feel free to let me know. Otherwise, take care, everybody, and have fun.